Okay, sorry for that. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending. For those of you who may or may not know me, my name is Kevin Bronson, and I'm the DDS Communications and Legislative Director and Regulations, I think, too. Yeah. So, unfortunately, Princess was not able to attend this meeting today due to a family scheduling conflict. So I am here and I'm going to be running the meeting today. Also, as the committee knows, Joe has transitioned onto bigger and better pastures. And so now we're in the process of, or the committee was in the process of getting a new co-chair, which Cress, you can all see, is the other person on camera. And Cress Saccaroli is our South Regional Director, and I will let him introduce himself and say a few things. But generally speaking, I'm going to run the meeting today, just for everyone to know, because this is Cress's first time, so we're not just going to dump him in into the deep end without some floaties, right? So anyways, Cress.
I appreciate that, Kevin. Like Kevin said, my name is Cress Saccaroli. I'm the South Regional Director. There are some people on the call today that I'm familiar with, so but some that I'm not. I also know that there's, I think, another new person on the committee, Gunnar Abrahamson. So when I'm done introducing myself, I would like everyone to just take a moment of our time to introduce themselves, so I know who we are all working together with. Like Kevin said, I'm new to the South region, but I've been around. This is DDS. This is my going on my 30th year. I've worked in all three regions and central office, so that's why I was asked to help support this team for the engagement within DDS, that I have a good understanding of most different silos and audiences that we'll be engaging with. So that's just a little bit about me. If we could just go around the room and introduce ourselves. I'll start alphabetically with Gunnar. Oh, Kevin.
Just Kevin Bronson, DDS. I just want to remind, the one thing I forgot to tell everyone is that before you say this is a public meeting, and before we say anything, we have to introduce ourselves and say who we are and where we're from. So just a little reminder. Sorry, go ahead, Gunnar.
All right. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Cress. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Gunnar Abrahamson. I am the Executive Secretary for Commissioner Jordan Sheff here at Central Office. I had the pleasure of working with Cress Saccaroli down in the South region for approximately 6 months before being pulled up to fill the vacancy created by Joe Carvalho. I'm eager to work with the committee on the important task and our ARPA project. It's great to be here. Thank you.
Next on the list was Beth Selesky.
I have to mention, Kevin Bronson, DDS, if for some reason you can't come on camera or unmute, just I understand. So
it looks like Beth is muted, and if she can't unmute herself, we can move on. Kevin was next, and then Alexis Calarco.
Kevin Bronson, DDS. I should mention, Cress, some of these people are members of the public too. So
I assume such. Alexis noted she in chat that hi, just a DDS case manager listening from the public. All right, thank you. We'll continue on with Don DeMatteo.
Hi, sorry I can't be on camera. I don't know what's going on with my laptop today, but I'm a parent of a 30 year-old individual who is in a group home and serviced by DDS. So I know quite a few. Gunnar I know really well. My face is always around, so glad to meet you. And I'm glad you're part of this committee.
Great. So, Dawn, I'm assuming you are a member of the committee versus Alexis, who is just visiting from the public.
Correct. Dawn DiMatteo, parent, and I'm a member of the committee. Correct.
Thank you so much.
Hey, Kevin Bronson, DDS. Crest, do you want me to just run through, because I don't know if you have the list of the committee in front of you.
I do not. I just am going
It's
off
on our
of who's in the
website,
meeting.
so.
So Sherry's here, Sherry Knightley.
Yes, good morning and welcome, Chris. Sherry Knightley from the West Region Resource Management. Good to see you.
Good seeing you, Sherry. Peter Mason.
Hi, Peter Mason. I'm a retiree who's overseeing the ARPA initiative. I have two comments. First off, Alexis, there's no such thing as just a DDS case manager. We're appreciative for all you do. And the second thing is I have no idea what that hat is that you're wearing, Chris.
If I knew you were here today, I would have wore a different hat. But Maura Fitzgerald.
Hi, Chris. This is Maura Fitzgerald. I work at McDowell Communications Group. We are a contractor who's working with DDS on this project, not a member of the committee.
Great. Yana.
Hi, I'm Yana. I'm the self-advocate coordinator.
We've met before. Good to see you, Yana. Rebecca Brockway.
Hi, nice to meet you. Rebecca from McDowell Communications Group, working with Maura.
Great. And last but not least, Wayne.
Hello there, Wayne Seidel, Director of Case Management, member of the committee, and happy to be here. Thank you.
Great. I appreciate everybody taking the time to introduce themselves. I'll turn it back over to Kevin Bronson, DDS.
Thank you, Cress. Kevin Bronson at DDS. I believe Princess circulated the agenda to everyone. So, and if not, I'm happy to just quickly drop it in the chat. But the first person on our agenda is Mr. Peter Mason with a ARPA update and overview. So, Peter. Oh, wait, did we? Sorry, Mary. Crest, did you skip Mariana? I just saw her come on camera.
I don't.
Do you want to introduce? Sorry, I don't know if you introduced yourself. Mariana, if you want.
Hi, Marina. Hi, Marina.
Maria,
Derman.
sorry.
No, it's all right. Hi. No, sorry, I'm late. Apologize for joining late. Marina Derman, parent. That's it.
Yeah, thank you. We were just going through, Crest asked everyone to introduce themselves on the committee, so I just saw you pop up. But so Peter, why don't you take it away? Peter, you're muted.
Thank you. Let's see my notes up here. Okay, so we're in the in-between stages right now. We're moving from what we called phase one. We're going to be moving on to our next phase that will be coming up. In the meantime, we've had a lot of input from stakeholders, and Deloitte has also done an analysis of the states, other states. So we're working through, they're working on right now through all those recommendations, all those analysis, and coming up with a list of recommendations. It's the timeline at this point is somewhere around the middle of March to be able to be sharing what those recommendations are. What they have been doing is we have had a number of agencies who have stated that they're interested in providing a transition plan At this point, we had 26 agencies that said they were interested. There, of those 26, 12 had said they were definitely going to be putting in a plan. Deloitte has been has been providing office hours every Friday for the last couple of weeks. And that's been attended by some additional providers, as well as those that have submitted that they were interested. We have, and then they're doing one-on-one sessions with some providers. There's a couple providers that are real close to submitting a plan, which we are anxious to have so that we can start seeing what the process is. This first phase we did was supposed to be for to help us in terms of a pilot, and whether we needed to make some changes. So if we can get some plans, we can start looking at other things that in those plans that are coming in that we may want to make sure that we either avoid or we want to encourage. So that's in the process. We know that right now the initiative has been very slow. I think it's been building, and so we're looking at the spending projections and trying to figure out how do we move forward to make sure that we maximize the money that's available to us. We are moving towards the next phase. And so we had all the surveys and input sessions. And as such, we had a number of themes that had come out, which are not any surprise to any of us. Accessible transportation was one of the themes. Affordable housing was another. Transition infrastructure from school to work. And then workforce recruitment and retention were some of the themes that we saw. McDowell will give an update. We're looking at doing different videos, so I'll let them do that. The residential advisory, we had a discussion on shared housing, which is a little different than shared living. Shared living is a program where the supports are shared between the provider, the family, and the individual. But the shared housing part, what we find is a lot of families are looking at how do they purchase a house and have individuals live in that house. And so the residential advisory, we had a discussion and presentation on what that would look like and what the related party guidelines would be for that. We're also working with Deloitte on value-based payments. As part of the whole ARPA initiative was to look at if DDS was to implement a system where we would be paying for value-based outcomes, what would that look like? Once they complete the analysis of our system, then the second piece that they'll be doing is a recommendation on if we were to move to a value-based payment system, what would that look like? A couple other updates are we had contracted with a company called Rewarding Work to redesign our website for families that self-hire their staff. So that new design should be up and running somewhere around March 1st. It's going to have a lot more bells and whistles to it. The old system we had was pretty archaic. So this is to be able to help in terms of matching the staff that are looking for a job and the families that are looking for staff. So that should be coming up on March 1st. We have issued assistive technology grants to promote more accessibility to assistive technology. One is for individuals, and one is for providers. We're looking at doing a third one that would be more for day programs and how to use assistive technologies in day program. We're working on an assistive technology conference that will be sometime in June, and that would be followed in July with a summer camp that we're looking at setting up an IT working summer camp that families could come and take a look at how those supports would actually work. And lastly, we have submitted what we call a non-project based supported housing grant. We've been working with the Department of Housing on project-based supportive housing sites. And what that is apartment complexes that are from scratch. And so providers are in from the beginning, that they work with the developer and whoever the building maintenance people will be, so that individuals would then live in the apartment settings and providers would have support staff within the building to provide the supports. But those take like a couple of years. And so what we're trying to do with this non-project based grant is, are we able to work with existing housing complexes to be able to establish supportive housing sites? So we posted that, I think last week or the week before, and we're hoping that this is something that we could utilize, which would be able to get supportive housing sites up a lot quicker. And that is my report. And if anybody has any questions, I'm available.
Kevin Bronson, DDS, thank you, Peter. I guess I don't know how Princess ever did this, so I'm just going to start with Yana because Yana had her hand raised. So go for it.
So yeah, I like your idea of incorporating this housing into existing project housing complexes because it's gonna make things go much faster. I just want any kind of housing needs to be transit oriented because we do have individuals who don't drive and we want to make sure they can be as independent as possible. So even existing complexes should be places that are on major bus lines that are or near a train station or a transit station, anything like that. Because if it's out of the way, then it's going to make harder for individuals to be more independent and it's going to require more staffing hours and more money to provide transportation, which is not what we want. There's a lot of housing going up here in West Hartford. There's new buildings that are going up right in West Hartford Center. So that might be an area to look at. And there's that's built around the fast track stations in West Hartford. And then I know that there's housing built around not the fast track, the CT rail stations on the Hartford line in that area. There are apartment buildings right by the station. That would be very convenient for individuals so they'd be able to get to work. They'd be able to get where they need to go. One website that I think would be very useful when we're looking at these addresses is there's a site that will give a neighborhood the walkability score, and you put an address in and it will tell you how accessible the neighborhood is to someone who doesn't drive. And was a really useful site for me when I was looking at apartments because I would put the address in and see how walkable it is because I don't drive. I need a really walkable area. I need all my community resources to be walking distance. So I think that would be a very helpful site. I can put the link in. Make sure these areas have good walk scores so our individuals can be as independent as possible.
Thanks, Yana. This is Peter Mason. Thanks, Yana. It is one of the things that we look at when we are working through some of the supportive housing sites. The problem that we have is that, as you know, transportation in Connecticut is not the greatest. And sometimes we have to balance the location near a bus line to the geographic location in the state to make sure that there's affordable housing in other areas of the state. So sometimes we have to have that compromise. Well, this isn't the greatest in terms of walkability, but it is now. So now we have some a site now that's in Torrington or wherever that we were able to balance some of this throughout the state. So it is definitely a factor we look at, but sometimes we have to make some decisions based on making sure we have affordable housing all throughout the state.
Thanks.
I see. Yeah. The one thing you can do is that if it's the housing is on a public transport line, but there's no bus stop, they have CT Transit has put in bus stops by request. Look at the Walgreens distribution center. They did not have a bus stop there originally, but because so many of their employees use the bus, by popular demand, they had the bus stop put in right there. So that might be
Yeah.
another thing.
Yeah, I mean, but when you're talking on some of these more rural sections, bus lines are not, they're far and few between. So we, that's where some of the things that we have to look at the geography. We're trying to make sure that these aren't only in the major cities, that they are in some of the other places in Connecticut to make sure that the housing is available for as many people as possible.
Yana and Peter, thank you for that. I just, in the interest of time, sorry, Kevin Bronson, DDS. In the interest of time, I just want to keep the conversation moving and focused more on DDS staff communication stuff. So, Marina.
Yeah, hey, Marina Durman. So on the question of the shared housing versus shared living, I just wanted to ask, maybe not to this moment, ask more about it, but I think I'd love to hear more about that at some point. Families ask about this a lot, and maybe that could be one of those third Tuesdays, whatever discussions, or some communication about that could be done, because I think a lot of families say, hey, if we could pool our resources, or if I bought a house and could find some other people who could live in it, if that's a slightly different version of that model, I think a lot of families would be very interested in hearing more about it. So anyway, just putting a plug in for that.
Kevin Bronson, DDS, I just want to make sure I got what you asked correctly. The idea is like to put something out, support shared housing versus supportive housing, right? Is that what you asked for?
No, the shared living model, because Peter was saying the shared housing model, which is not quite the same as the shared living model, which, by the way, a lot of families ask about and would like to know more about that as well, because that's something that I think the ins and outs of are also of interest to families. And to the extent that that Peter, as you just said, is not quite the same, but has some similarities too, I think that's a really interesting topic, and it would be great to have DDS put out some communication of some sort about maybe both of those. So.
No, I just want to make sure I got it down. Kevin Bronson, DDS. I just want to make sure I took down what you had correctly. Anything else before I move on?
Got Wayne.
No. All right, Wayne.
Yeah, Wayne Seidel, DDS. So two things. First of all, I said this last time and I'll say it again. Every time I hear your updates, Peter, I pick up something new. I learn something new, and that's exactly what I tuned in on too. The same thing Marina just tuned in on. That is something that has been talked about for years and by families. So I'm really excited and interested to hear that we're interested in learning more about that and perhaps a pathway. The second point that I wanted to make is that also, when I hear your updates, Peter, I always think, okay, this is all really good information, and it gets to what I was talking about last time, the why behind what we're doing with ARPA, and how do we get this, and the job of this group here, how do we get this information out to case managers in a similar cadence? And I understand that perhaps not all of the information needs to go out all at the same time. We want to offer case managers what's relevant to them and what's in process, and there might be some pieces that we're just starting to get into that there's not really enough information to be able to share at the moment. But to really think about how we're providing a steady drip of information to keep to keep case managers informed. So I appreciate the updates. I learned something new each time. I know that you give them in a lot of different places, Peter. I'm curious as to, as a group here, how are we going to move that forward?
So thanks, Wayne. Kevin Bronson, DDS. Thank you, Wayne. And actually, before we even get into that conversation, that is 2D of our agenda. So then 2 more items. So divisional communication efforts is yeah. So if we can just hold that, but I would love to have that conversation. So Cress.
Yes, Chris Saccarelli, DDS. Just wanted to piggyback on what Wayne said. I know Wayne's focus is case management, and he keeps saying, how do we get this out to case management? I just want to make sure that our focus isn't just case management focused, that we need to be figuring out how to get this communication out to all of our employees, resource management, quality, all of them. I know case management is our largest group of professional employees, but our scope, I think, needs to be broadened a little bit more than that. And I would just caution that going forward.
Kevin Bronson, DDS. Thank you, Chris. Any other questions, comments for Peter before we move on to our next agenda item? No? Okay. Well, I'm going to move down to communications planning updates from McDowell, Mora. Give it a try. I know that we're going to try to share your screen, and if it doesn't work, we'll try something else. So,
hello, everyone. Maura Fitzgerald from McDowell Communications Group. I am going to share my screen with you guys.
We can see it.
Okay, cool. So as we mentioned the last time we were before you all, we did 2 surveys. One was to individuals and families, and one was to the DDS staff. So we just received the results back from the DDS staff survey. And since this is the engagement committee, I thought I would just give you a flavor for a few of the kind of top line things that that came up. And I will send the full report to the committee co-chairs, and they can distribute it to the rest of the committee members. And again, these 2 surveys were done largely kind of for our internal purposes on the communication side, and to set a baseline so that we can kind of judge over the course of the year how we're doing with communications. Are we moving attitudes? Are we moving opinions? So that was the logic and the reasoning behind these 2 surveys. So specifically with the employee survey, it was sent out to 1,565 staff and contractors, and we got back 533 responses. 56% of the respondents were case managers, and another 9% were direct support workers. So we thought that was a really good numbers for our purposes, because those are the people who are kind of directly interacting with individuals and families. But we did get responses from kind of across the spectrum of DDS staffers. How much have you heard about the Moving On plan? Great response in that we have 56% of the DDS staff who responded to the survey saying that they have either heard a lot or some about the plan. But then the other portion of that is just a little and nothing. So we still have room to improve and work on. And just a sample of kind of the top lines of where people are we're hearing about the plan. More than half are hearing about it through a work channel somehow, which makes sense. These charts, the top line for me is 65% of the workers that were surveyed support the plan, and 39% of it say that it's going to promote independence. You can see some of the other results there. 19% saying it's going to bring more opportunities or improve life for the individuals that participate, which is great. Some concerns and changes. The biggest disadvantage that the staff noted was lack of supports and resources, general concern about change. It's not going to help everyone. So we have some room to improve. And then changes in the DDS system that they felt needed to be made in order for the plan to be successful. The top line result there was improving communications, which we are working on doing. And then how the staff thought that individuals who they support would want to participate in the Moving On plan. I think it's awesome that, fully, 70% said that they felt that the individuals would either be very willing or somewhat willing to participate in the plan. And, on the other end of the spectrum, why would they be unwilling to participate? The biggest answer was the dislike or the fear of change, which we all kind of knew that was going to be a big one for us, but it gives us an indication of kind of what hurdles we have to overcome to get people to want to participate. And then nearly 50% of the staff says that the plan is going to greatly improve the lives of the people who participate in the plan. So that is great because obviously, I think one of the biggest ambassadors for this plan are going to be the DDS staff, especially as they're talking to individuals and families. So the fact that that so many of them have a feel good about what this will do for people, I think is a really good thing. So those are those results, and I think I have to stop sharing for a second. The other two things that I wanted to touch on, and I'm sorry that I'm going so fast, but I know that you guys have a packed agenda, so I want to get through it pretty quick. We have a newsletter that is going to be going out. I'm just trying to get rid of this slideshow. So we have a newsletter that's going to be going out, and we plan on sending one out every other month. And it is going to be going out to all of the individuals and families that DDS services, so about 17,000 people, that is going to be going out through the mail. And it will go out in both English and Spanish. And then it will also be emailed to DDS staff, to providers, and to other stakeholders that DDS identifies for us. And so that is off to the printers today. It's going to take, it'll probably be another week and a half to 2 weeks before individuals and families start to see this in their mailboxes. So in that intervening time between now and when it starts to hit mailboxes, that's when it will be emailed to staff, providers. So staff, providers, other stakeholders will have a heads up as to what individuals and families are going to be getting in the mail. So we don't want them to have to start answering questions from individuals and families if they, without knowing what they're going to be receiving. So they will be getting them in this kind of interim period before this newsletter hits the mailboxes. And one of the biggest things that is going to be announced in the newsletter is that as we are moving, as Peter said, into kind of this next phase of the ARPA initiative, we got feedback from people in the individuals and families surveys and from a couple of the other committees that are dealing with the transformation project that the name Moving On plan wasn't really resonating with people and was causing some confusion. So we've been talking about, and I think Peter mentioned it briefly, as we move into the next phase, what is, and things are more publicly presented, what is this going to be? So we are now moving into this next phase into what we are going to call STEP, which stands for Supporting Transformation to Empower People. So STEP really is going to become like the bedrock of the DDS system moving forward. It's going to be, it represents the supports and the services that are going to be offered to people. And it's really going to outlive the ARPA initiative. And this will kind of be the model moving forward for DDS. So this newsletter will introduce STEP to individuals and families and staff and providers, and it kind of explain a little bit more about what it means and kind of a little bit about what the program is and whatnot. And I'll quickly, just super quick, share my screen again so you guys can see what this looks like. This is the newsletter that will be going out. I don't want to go through all of it because you'll all be seeing it soon, but just to give you an idea of what it's going to look like. And this QR code here, if people go to that, it will bring them directly to the form on the DDS website to sign up for, to get on the email lists. So that is what's going on, and that's our update for the moment. We're working on the videos. I believe Peter mentioned that. And I think we're going to be starting to film a few of those videos probably next week and the week after. And then our plan is to roll out the videos in the month of March. And speaking of plans, we are also working on a comprehensive communications plan that will cover the next 6 months. And we're hoping to share that with the ARPA team by the end of this week. So once we have that in place, when we come to these meetings in the future, we'll be going over with you what is going to be in the communications calendar kind of for the following month. So we can talk through with the committee members to see if they have any things we should put on the calendar and to make you aware of what's going to be coming up in the month ahead. And that's our report for now.
Kevin Bronson, DDS. Thank you, Maura. And I'm just going to add a couple more things, and then I know Chris has his hand up. So, but basically, the idea and everything what Maura said is great. The plan is that a lot of the feedback, as she mentioned, that we received from little individuals, families, all of our stakeholders, where it was a little bit confusing. It was hard to understand. So it's not a rebrand, a rename, it's just a refocus of how we're describing this next phase of this process. So it hopefully isn't too confusing. Also, I should mention is we're having these conversations well in advance, as Maura said, where the goal is try to have these discussions in this committee or other sorts of places at least a month or 2 months in advance, because the idea is that getting people comfortable for when these videos and other sorts of stuff come out, say in a month or two now. So I'll turn over to Cress, and then and then we'll go from there. Sorry. So Cress.
Cress Seccarelli, DDS. Maura, thank you for your presentation. One quick question, I might have missed it, but I did see when you were scrolling, STEP is an acronym for what?
Support. This is Maura Fitzgerald from McDowell Communications Group. STEP is an acronym for Supporting Transformation to Empower People.
Thank you.
Sorry, they're Kevin Bronson, DDS. They're fixing the heat in my office, so it's really loud. But Marina, sorry, go ahead.
Hey, thanks, Marina Derman. Super quick. That was great. Thanks, Maura. Really quick question on that last pie chart. I am so intrigued by the 2% or whatever it looked like of people who thought it was actually going to make people's lives worse. I don't know if you had any insights or if you had any open-ended whatever on, do you know why they thought it was going to, I understood people going, I don't know if it will help or not, but if you know why people thought the staff thought it would actually make things worse, do you know?
This is Maura Fitzgerald from McDowell Communications Group. Off the top of my head, I do not know. I'm looking right now just quickly to see where that came from.
And Kevin Bronson, DDS, and just so you know, for everyone in the committee, we will share everything that Maura had, and we'll also post it on the website for others, for the members of the public to see as well, so.
And I understand if you just didn't have, if there's no room, if there was no way for you to gather that data, right? I got it, but I just was curious if they had a place to scribble. I think it'll make them worse, because then I was so curious about how anybody would come to that conclusion. It was interesting. Anyway.
Yeah, I'll look and see if I can find it, but like Kevin said, we'll send around this. And the other thing that will come with all of this, there were in the individuals and families survey, there were 1 or 2 open-ended questions. In this one, there were a few more open-ended questions because it was an all online survey, so it's just easier to have them in there. So I will also send the kind of appendix that it's just big lists, but it lists every written answer that was in there. So for anyone who wants to read through that, they're welcome to. It's analyzed in here, but we can send along the raw data for that.
Well, thanks.
Thank you, Maura. Sorry, Kevin Bronson, DDS. Anything else for Maura? And I believe that Maura, if I'm wrong, you're here every meeting doing an update, right?
Yes,
Or no?
I believe so.
Okay. All right,
Yeah.
perfect. So if you have any if you have any questions, you can always reach out to myself, Cress, Princess, or Maura, and we can get those answered either between the meetings or at the next meeting. So if there's nothing else, it doesn't look like anyone from Deloitte is on here. I know that when I talked to Princess before this, she mentioned that they may or may not show up. So I'm just gonna skip that, I guess. So I'm gonna move, I guess, directly into the thing that I mentioned, the divisional communications effort. So I'll kick that off, and then we can continue the discussion. So a lot of the feedback that I've received at as the communications director over here at DDS is that we're just, shockingly, we're not doing well enough communicating. We're not communicating enough stuff in time. We have staff that explain that providers get information before them, individuals and families get information before staff, and all these other sorts of things. So as Maura mentioned with the newsletter, is that we're trying to or I shouldn't say step, but we're trying to transition this into something where providers, staff, receive the information before individuals and families. So when you get that newsletter in the mail and you are very confused and you want to call your case manager is aware of what's going on already. So that sort of stuff. I know Cress mentioned a concern about, it's not just case managers, it's resource managers and a variety of other sort of DDS supporting staff. So the goal and the focus, at least my goal and focus, is that rather than think about communicating to a region as we've communicated in the past, right? We would send information to the North region, send information statewide, right? Or send information however way. My focus now is we should be focusing more on information that the division needs, right? So as Cress put it, is that resource managers and case managers might have the same information. It might be similar, might be slightly different, but we also need to, provide similar information, or at least links to what we're sending to these case managers, to the other staff throughout our agency, to make sure that everyone is aware of what's going on. My initial plan that we're working on is to build, we have a internal, again, this is just for staff, right? So we have an internal means of communications. It's our Inside DDS SharePoint site, which I feel like I might or might not have shown people before. I'm happy to share. I can share my screen if people want to see it afterwards. I'll have to pull it up. But basically it's our intranet for our agency, is where we post a lot of, or it's where we should be posting more stuff than what we do now. And that's why I want to use it as a place where we can train staff to go there and find this updated information. So we're and working on building that sort of stuff. So it's kind of communicating to everyone, but then reminding everyone just to come back and this is the place to look for the information. So it's still kind of in its infancy stage. So if people have ideas, I'm very open to what your thoughts are. But my initial thought is everyone complains about their case. Let's say their case manager is not creative enough, or they're, the people at DDS, I've worked with X person that's better than Y person, right? And I think a lot of it is just making sure we're providing the same resources and the same information to every single person. So, and then also giving them examples of ways, where uh, creative, I call them creative examples on how, maybe to show a case manager or to show a resource manager, how one might, utilize these new types of supports that we're trying to incentivize on one of their caseloads. I also don't have the same knowledge as Princess does, so I might have just explained something that I don't know either. So, but Wayne didn't stop me yet, so I'm pretty sure that I did it right. Anyways, I'll stop there. And if people have ideas, comments, suggestions, yeah, and I'll go back to Wayne. I know Wayne, you brought this up earlier, but I told you to stop. So
No, yeah, thank you, Wayne Seidel, DDS. Thank you, Kevin. Just as far as on our agenda, the discussion about regional information, I mean, I think that some of that is spurred from a conversation we had last time. And just as a follow-up, we are about to do a case management winter training series. And we talked a little bit about that last time. It's Wednesdays in March. And the last one I've carved out for ARPA information and just circling the wagons and trying to get some confirmations as far as what we'll actually be presenting, but that information needs to go out this week. And the other piece is just a discussion around beyond that, how do we do more intimate opportunities for case managers to dive into and learn. And I know that this isn't just about case managers, but as Chris pointed out, that's kind of been the focus, and it's been some of the focus for me in my role. But then it's also been some of the focus of our discussions, because I think a lot of the times case managers are the ones receiving the phone call, and that we are charging to be able to answer the questions. So we need to be able to arm them with that information, and everybody else as well. But as far as the discussion, some of the discussions that we've had, I think we're also, from a regional point of view, trying to think about how to organize some road shows around some of the specific initiatives here to really dive in and arm people with the information they need to be able to articulately speak about the efforts. So that conversation is ongoing as far as how it can be most effectively delivered. And, how do we include people from regions, management from regions, to ensure that they're understanding the efforts as well, and that it's just a more of an intimate discussion, so people are comfortable asking questions, getting their answers, and really engaged. So I think it goes hand in hand with all of the communication efforts that we're talking about today. So it's not just one means, it's multiple means, multiple avenues of people being able to receive their information and feel comfortable with it.
Kevin Bronson, DDS. Thank you, Wayne. Before Crest, before I call on you, I see your hand up. I just want to mention, just an aside, as the comms director here at the agency, is that's something that we are working on. My general vision was to start with larger conversations in January, and build this time where we pull stuff together and then have more broken down region-led discussions. It could be, for case managers, for individuals, whatever, and that's a discussion sometime in like April or May. And I'm internally working on that. And, I didn't reach out yet to the regional directors about it. So that's something that I'm still working on. But the idea is that we had positive feedback from when we did a couple of years back, and or maybe it was last year, where we had more region-led discussions in smaller groups, because it was, like you said, it was more focused and more helpful for not only families and individuals, but staff as well. So I'll stop there, Cress, and then Peter.
Kevin, I just wanted to comment on your suggestion about using the intranet site. I think that's an excellent idea. I like that better than using SharePoint per se, of just having a large link on our intranet site that just says ARPA. That, people want to know anything about ARPA, it's right there, one clearinghouse. My other suggestion would be is that if you do something, if we do something like that, that goes out in a separate communication to staff, not buried in a long communication with a lot of other stuff. We're all busy at work, and sometimes we get these long emails, and you end up starting to skim through it. And something as important like that, if we were to set up a clearinghouse on our website for just ARPA stuff, that if you want to know something ARPA, you want to reference something in ARPA, there is a link on our internet site for you to go to that probably should probably be in its own communication and not looped in with a bunch of other stuff. Those are my two suggestions.
Kevin Bronson, DDS. Crest, thank you. Peter, before I call on you, I'd throw it out to the group. I don't know if non-staff would have any opinion on this, but to Crest's point, so in our agency currently, our Commissioner Chef puts out a Friday message, and that's a one very consistent message that we have in our agency. But there could, would it be a good idea, do we think, to maybe do like a ARPA Monday, or stepping into Tuesday, or something cheeky and whatever, but literally just like you said, Cress, like maintaining it as so people know, just get a message from the commissioner on Friday, but maybe we can try to just do a consistent day of the week, right? Do you think that would work?
I think this is Cress Seccarelli. I think that's a good idea. I think that should, be something that, from the DDS and ARPA engagement committee for employees, like that it comes out on a regular cadence kind of a thing, and so that this committee is following its mission of making sure that there's engagement with our employees.
Sure. Kevin Bronson, DDS, and I just want to let everyone know, just for their awareness, based off of feedback that I've received, my goal is to have only one person carry the megaphone on this topic, and that is Jordan Sheff, our commissioner. I found that people listen to him and rely on him and all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to send it out, but I'll probably send it out under the commissioner's signature, because most people don't understand what this committee is. But anyway, and they'll listen to Jordan, so it is. But anyways, Peter.
Yeah, Peter Mason, I think these are all great ideas. Just want to go back to Wayne's idea regarding more intimate conversations with the case managers. I think that's something that needs to be done sooner rather than later. And I understand where you're coming from, Kevin, but my idea, it would be that they case managers should be hearing about remote supports and about customized employment and supportive housing, all that stuff now, so that when those plans start coming out, they have an idea of what those are and how their people would be able to benefit from that. I think waiting till April or May is going to just delay some of that learning that needs to be done. So I think my recommendation is that we would have, work with Wayne to see how we can get that for the case managers. I'm not too sure in terms of the resource manager stuff, whether they need something that specific. I think, if we're looking at educating people regarding transition plans and all that stuff, for the resource managers, that probably needs to start happening now as well. So I think, all this stuff, we really need to start ramping up how we're going to start communicating all this stuff as soon as possible. Because if we start getting plans and, we're being told that they're going to start coming down the pike, we need to get everybody so that they're prepared for this.
Kevin Bronson, DDS. Yes, Peter, I agree, and thank you for that. Any other comments, questions about the divisional communication? I know that when Princess is back, she'll probably have a better update than me. So. Okay, our next agenda item is community companion home presentation, which, as we can see, it's 12 noon already. I don't see Tom Marinac on the call, so again, I'm gonna skip that. And
Well,
move.
unless you want to try to call him in.
Is he one of our staff?
Yep.
All right, I'll try that. I don't know how to do that, Peter.
Hold on. This is Peter Mason. Let me see. People, let's see.
This is all recorded now for everyone. They can make fun of me not being able to do this and Peter having to help me.
This is Gunnar Abrahamson, DDS. Kevin, you should be able to go to the people icon at the top of the meeting, and it should give you the option to invite someone or dial a number in a search bar at the top of that list.
I was just doing that too. But I'll let the youngin do it since they know more than I do.
All right. Kevin Bronson, DDS, give me 1 second. I think she told me that he was supposed to come at 11:30, so. Well, while we're waiting for him, I'm just going to move on to if we have any future agenda items. Any ideas? What I know, obviously, I'm going to go back. We'll go back to have the CCH presentation. If he doesn't join in, I'll have Princess and Cress work on getting Thomas back for next week or next time. It looks like he didn't join. I don't know if there's, and maybe Deloitte, we can get Deloitte in for a transformational plan update, seeing that they didn't make this week or this meeting. But is there anything else that members of the committee would like to see? And if you don't have an idea right now, feel free to email Princess directly. You can email me, but I would suggest emailing Princess.
So this is Peter Mason, and McDowell's going to be completing a communications plan that's going to have a calendar of events. I would suggest that get brought to not just this engagement committee, but the individual and family one as well, and to determine what role the committees are going to do in terms of those future communications. I did have a conversation with Moore, so one of the things that we need to figure out is how do we start jumping ahead of all this so that we're not being reactive or being proactive. So when the communication plan comes in, we should be, for this committee, in March, we should be working on what that communication is in April, so that we're always a month ahead and we're not going through some of the edits and all that stuff at the last second. I'd rather do that so that we have time that we can go through that. So my recommendation would be that that get presented at this next committee, and what the role of this committee is going to be in order to make sure that the communication to staff gets done and done in a proactive manner.
Kevin Bronson, DDS. Thank you, Peter. I took a note of that. Anything else from others? No? I know it's right before lunchtime, so I'm perfectly fine with everyone being quiet, but no? All right, if nothing else, it looks, Wayne, did you come on for something? No? Okay. It looks like the announcement of the next meeting is Wednesday, March 8th at 11 o'clock. Princess will be on by then. And Cress and Princess are going forward are going to be your new co-chairs for this committee. If there's nothing else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Wayne.
I'll
All right,
second.
beautiful.